So this is the second part of Hibernate. In this part, I'm basically going to create the Java program for things to be sent to the database. This means I'm going to basically create the things that the objects that need to be created that I'm going to send to the database. So in this one, I'm going to go to my insert employee. That's the first table I'm going to make. No, that's not the first one. It's going to be the second Java program I'm going to create. The first Java program I'm going to create is called employee. So in this one, we're basically going to create a class called employee, and we're going to implement serializable, meaning that this ID, we're going to actually have it so it automatically adds one to it each time. And that's what implementing serializable does. And to use that, we actually need to import this java.io.serializable. So within this file, we're going to create these right here, these variables. And these variables are going to be based on what we're going to be placing inside our table. And these are going to be relating to the last the last file that I explained to you in the last video. That's where I got the names come from this. They're basically the names of the variable I gave in this Java program that I created. So basically I created the variables, and then underneath of it I basically created the set and get objects for employee. And this is going to basically allow us to set the objects and to get the objects, which is going to allow us to basically insert into the table. And so that's the first program I made to put things into the table. The second program I made is insert employee. Now here, this is basically where we're going to be. This is where we're going to implement the public static void main, and this is where we're basically going to be sending. This program right here is what's going to send the information from the last program to the database. So how we do that is we go configuration fcg equals new configuration cfg dot get app configuration entry hibernate.cfg.xml, and this is actually referencing within that table that I showed you. Underneath of that, we need this session factory sf.build session factory. This basically is going to build our session to the database. And this right here is basically what connects us to the database. This right here is opening a session. So this opens our session. And then this right here is a transaction tx, begin transaction. This is beginning our transaction to send things to the database. And then we basically created a new object for the employee program that we just created in the last, at the beginning of this video. That's what I did, is I created the Java program for this object, and this, we're just making a new object. And then we basically set the ID, set the name, set the mobile number, and set the email to the variables. This is basically going to set the variables within that program that I just showed you. And so I gave the ID variable. I gave the ID variable number 1. I gave the name, my name, which is Eric. I set a mobile number, and I set an email. The s.save imp means that we're saving this object we're creating. We're saving it. S.flush means we're actually, that's where it's flushing it and sending it to that file, to the stuff we just created, so it can be sent to the database. tx commit sends it to the database, and then s.close closes the session we've been doing. So to implement this right here, this configuration CFG, we actually need to import the org.hibernate.cfg.configuration, because this is a class within Java that comes with Java. I think you do need to download some things for it. And then this right here is the session factory, which is going to basically build our session. And you also need to download, import this from Java, because this is a built-in class. And I think it also might be something that needs to be downloaded in Eclipse or whatever IDE you're using. And this is basically how we're going to push information to the database. Now, I can't really show you how this works, as I do not have a working database to do this with. I was going to try to do it with the database that I have on my PHP, but because that's my PHP, I couldn't find anything on how to do it, so I wasn't able to do that. And I don't have an Oracle or MySQL database program to do it with. So anyways, this is part 2 of Hibernate.